Okay, parents, we're back. Sorry, it got cut off. I can only post a video for a certain amount of time on YouTube. Back to these New Year's resolutions. You'll notice, and you'll see it in your children's books, or if you see my displays outside, a lot of the kids did this with my support. Some of them did it on their own and were able to sound out and write their own words. Some needed just me to sound it out, and some needed to scribe them. So I differentiated my teaching based on where each child was at and the support that they needed. So this was scaffolded for them. Then we have, 1, 2, 3. Oh, and then the fourth bin last week was, again, different levels based on each student and where they're at, was matchup games that they worked on in partners. So each group, so I had a group, my focus bins vary about 7 kids each group. So each pair within that bin had their own games. So one of the games, for example, was matching mugs. And what you have to do here, this was a sound game. So you have to match the picture to the letter it starts with. So for example, donut, they'd have to find, I know this isn't D, but they'd have to find the mug that matches with donut, or the letter, and then so D, and they'd have to put the puzzle together. So they had to do it for every letter in the alphabet. But let me see if I can find you one that matches. Okay, for example, sun starts with the letter S. So this was for their phonemic awareness. And then so I had 2 other games that were like this. Like for example, mittens, they had to match the mittens, the letters with the sounds, like the 2 sides of a mitten. And then another option was if I felt that this was too challenging for the students, or which actually they did a really good job of, they got a different type of game, which was like one of these 2 games, and they had to do an uppercase, lowercase match. So they would match the gingerbread house, the letter, the uppercase with the corresponding gingerbread person. So I know this isn't Y, but the gingerbread that had the letter lowercase y would go with this house. So it was an uppercase, lowercase match. So we have a lot of games like this that work on their phonemic awareness and sound games, and then also working together as a team, being accountable, because my students had to all contribute to their, or contribute with their partners. It wasn't about one partner doing it all. So those are my bins last week. Then my bins this week were, well, we had a lot planned for this week, but like I said, we didn't get to it because of the number of children missing. But the focus bins I will explain to you. We are starting to introduce shapes, so we've done new number sense, patterns. Now we're gonna move on to shapes, and then measurement will be in a few months, so, or maybe a month or 2. So shapes, the students had shape maps, when we talked about different shapes and the characteristics of their shapes, and we're gonna continue doing this. This takes a lot of time for the students to understand, but I'll start including it in my morning message and through different activities, which I'll explain next week. So we talked about like an octagon having 8 sides, a rhombus being another word for a diamond, just like toque and hat or jacket and coat. So what the students had to do was they had an entire bag with tons of different images of shapes. For example, an oval. So this one's looking at the oval. So they had to take the oval card and match it to the oval mat. And they had to fill it in. There's at least 50. So they had to work as a team to finish the shape mats. Then, oh my goodness, what a popular focus bin this was this week. A game of what we called War, just adapted for kindergarten. So what they had to do was they had to take their cards, and you were facing a partner, and you'd each have to flip the card at the exact same time. And the student with the bigger number, so 5 versus 3, 5's obviously bigger, got to keep the pair. And then you flip again. 8 versus 1. So the student who ended up having the most pairs at the end was the winner. Not that the kids even paid attention to that too much. Some did, of course. But this is a great game for subitizing, number comparisons, number sense. It's really great, really fun. If there's if you want to play this game at home, so easy. You just take out the jacks, queens, kings, aces, or you could keep the aces in as they represent 1. These are special cards. They're not playing your box cards, so it's just a 1, not an ace. Then if you do get a tie, let's say both children drew a 3, then they could either play rock, paper, scissors, or I gave them the option of putting it back in the middle of their deck and redoing it. Most of them played rock, paper, scissors. So that was a card game to work on numbers. Then we had a fine motor bin this week that worked on cutting. So the students had to color, cut, and glue their snowman. Again, we looked at the 6 stars of cutting and reminding the students of that, because we still, I find, need to work on our cutting skills. I'm finding some students are still struggling a little bit on just proper grasp and using that guiding hand. Then we looked at, we looked at our secret codes this week. 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, so the 4th bin was our secret sentences. This is such a fun game, and I love it because it gives me a quick assessment of, as a teacher, of where they're at. So what the students had to do was they were given each image, and so if it was an axe starts with letter A, so they'd write an A, ball, B, apple, A, table, T. So they'd have to fill out the whole message. I'll quickly fill this in. Don't judge my upside down printing. J, E, G. So for example, then once they had that, for some students that was all I wanted them to do, was just to match the first letter with the sound. So ball, B, apple, A, table, T. For some students, I worked on breaking up the words and actually sounding it out. And a lot of our students, well, not, I shouldn't say a lot, but a handful of our students was actually, were actually reading the secret sentence, which was wonderful. Again, we're gonna keep doing these throughout the year because it worked on that quick recognition. So this was fun, and the kids love it because it's a secret message at the end, and they're pretty silly. Like a bat is in the jet, or this one was, the cat is very fat, I think, so they had a good time doing those. Some new games that we've been doing in the classroom to work on literacy and phonemic awareness was Jenga. Great game to play at home, parents. The kids love it. You just take Jenga blocks. You don't need the expensive one. You can just go to the dollar store and get these ones for $2. So on every cube, or on every rectangle Jenga block, you write an uppercase and lowercase letter. So every time the students, you know how to play Jenga, I won't set up the tower, but every time the students pulled out a Jenga cube to put on top, they'd have to tell me the letter or tell me the sound, or you can even ask them to give you a word that starts with that letter. So that was Jenga. We played Old Maid. And this, you could take these cards and do a number of games with them, matching Go Fish with letters. So these are a great tool, a resource to have at home to work on sounds and letters again. And to help get you through these cold days when I'm sure being locked in can be, with your children all day, can be tough. But books, we started Shapes. A book on shapes. These were more meeting our concepts this week. Cat in a Hat. As next week, parents, we were supposed to do it this week, but next week we're going to begin rhyming. So we're going to look at all the different rhyming families. We'll do one family each week and work on rhyming words. This helps with phonological awareness. So not phonemic is the individual sounds. Now we're looking at the bigger picture, the words in general. So that's phonological awareness, which rhyming targets. And then we Don't Eat Our Classmates has a fun book yesterday when it was extra cold because the students love this one. Okay, and then I think I touched on everything, parents. Upcoming program of study outcomes that we're going to be hitting. Rhyming, shapes, so we're going to look into shapes and the characteristics of shapes. We're going to continue working with the students on their drawing and adding details into their drawings. And for literacy, we're going to look at the 5 W's. So who, what, where, when, and why. These are important questions to ask students when you're reading the book. Why was a child upset in that specific scene? Or where do you think they're going to be going? So this works on their prediction skills. They're really, at the end of the day, their comprehension and being able to read a story to them and have them understand why certain things are happening or what's going on in the book. So that was our week, parents. Next week we'll do another video explaining what was done in the classroom. We had a couple art projects to do this week, but we'll save them for next week, no problem at all. We'll be starting our new inquiry next week. So we'll start by putting out a few provocations to see where the students are what the students are more drawn to. So stay posted on that. And that was it. Thank you guys again for your kids. They were amazing. They had a great 2 weeks. I can't believe how ready they came back to school after that Christmas break. So stay warm, and we'll see you next week.